My name is Joe Shannon with Shannon Law Group, and I'm here to answer a lot of questions for you today. One of the first questions that we're asked a lot of times is, what is a personal injury case? A personal injury case, first of all, involves the court system. So the court system is, there's two different types of court systems. There's the criminal courts and the civil courts. Today we'll talk about what we call the civil courts. That is disputes over money damages. The criminal courts are dealing with whether or not somebody committed a crime. Usually that's the prosecuting attorney's office. Usually that's the state going against a defendant. In a personal injury case, somebody that's been aggrieved, that has been harmed, that has had personal injury, will bring a case against that person that was either negligent or reckless or intentionally hurt them. So, for example, at my firm, we handle cases involving typically catastrophic personal injury. That means that somebody has been permanently injured by another, by a person or a corporation. Let me give you an example. If somebody is driving down the expressway, let's talk about Illinois. I-55 is an expressway. It's called the Stevenson Expressway in Chicagoland. There's a lot of trucks on there. If one of the trucks that is on there, unfortunately, that person decides to drive for 24 straight hours and falls asleep and crashes into the back of stopped traffic, that can cause a lot of personal injuries. Those are the type of cases that we take. Usually, what happens in a personal injury case is that there's been somebody negligent or reckless or intentionally causes a harm. What happens after that? Then there is what they call a personal injury case. Does that make sense to you? It should, because that's how we solve disputes in America. The way we solve disputes in America is we don't go knock on somebody's door and say, hey, Mr. Truck Driver, you permanently injured my father, and therefore I'm going to permanently injure you. No, we made a decision as a country that we would solve our disputes in front of a judge and have a jury of your peers decide who is at fault, who's on the right side or wrong side of a lawsuit. I usually represent people that have been injured due to the negligence or recklessness or intentional conduct of another. What type of damages are available in that? Well, think about it. The reason why we bring cases is to put people back to where they were precisely before a crash. Well, that's not possible. If we had a magic wand, we would use the magic wand. The person would go back to where they were 5 minutes before the crash. The big rig or truck that ran into them wouldn't do that, and they'd all go on their merry way. Unfortunately, the reality of it is that the truck did cause the crash. A lot of these things are permanent. They are unchangeable. They last for a lifetime. And so how do we as Americans put somebody back to where they were prior to that intentional or reckless or negligent conduct? We award money damages. It's really not an award, it's more of a replacement. For example, when you're driving down the expressway, you don't think that you're going to have to be in the hospital for 6 months. And the amount of medical bills that will be incurred, which are going to be in the millions, the time that you've lost your job, or if you've lost the ability to think or to reason or to mow your lawn anymore, to enjoy a nice walk with your wife or your husband or your son, or to be able to hold your baby, all of those types of things. Those are what we call damages. What are the damages in a type of case? Well, there's economic damages, which we talked about with medical bills, lost wages, any other out-of-pocket type of loss that you would have had. And usually, that's not what we really focus on here at Shannon Law Group, because that money goes to somebody else. Like, for example, if you incur medical bills as a result of a serious crash, that money is going to go to doctors, It's going to go to hospitals. It's going to go to insurance companies. If you lose your job, typically you don't work just for work's sake, you work to live. So you would have worked already. So that's going to basically pay some of your bills, your mortgage, all those types of things, the place where you live. The real damages in a serious injury case are what we call non-economic damages. What are non-economic damages? Those are the important ones. Like I said, most of us don't work for work's sake. I mean, I love my job. I love what I do. I have a mission in life. My job is to help people. I really like my job. I love the people I work with, all those types of things. But I really work for is to spend time with my family on the weekends, in the evening, before school, before work, that type of thing. That is what your normal life is. That is what your enjoyment of life is. We also do not want to have a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of losses in our life, the enjoyment of life. That's what the non-economic damages are. So let me break that down a little bit. If you've lost your normal life, say for example, you are a 35-year-old man. You loved more than ever getting up really early to go to your workout group with your friends. After that, you go to work, then you come back, and then you spend some time in the evening with your wife, your kids, your significant other. You liked walking with them. You liked playing frisbee with them. You liked going out to restaurants with them. Those are important events. Now, what if you multiplied that? If you're a 35-year-old man, you're hit by a big truck, and you can't do those, or maybe you can do those things, but it hurts every single moment when you're doing those things. That's worth money. That's worth time. Those are numbers that a jury comes up with. And the job of a lawyer is to explain to a jury, and they know this already, how that has affected your life. How is your life different because of that reckless act of that trucking company or somebody that took a shortcut, didn't do a background check on somebody that's driving without the proper license, somebody that's driving without the proper training, somebody that's driving, they have no business being behind an 18-wheeler. They have no business being there because they weren't properly trained. There's no safety mechanisms in place at this trucking company to make sure that that person doesn't injure and kill people. Now, all of these things I'm talking to you about are things that have really happened in specific cases that we've represented people. We've had 30-some-year-old fathers that have been permanently, irrevocably damaged. They can never walk the same. We had one fella a few years ago, had 2 kids, was a really hard worker. He basically was wheelchair bound after 6 months, but he got in his wheelchair and he went back to work and worked from his wheelchair because he needed the money to pay for his kids' education, for their housing, and his wife worked nights. Those are the type of people that we represent. Now, are his loss of normal life huge? Yes. Is his pain and suffering huge? Yes. Every single movement that he makes, it hurts. And it's going to hurt forever. So we're talking about 50 years of that. How much is that worth? I think it's worth a lot of money. And I'm willing to ask for that money in front of a jury because they get it. As opposed to an insurance company who's going to take a look at how many medical bills you have and seem to multiply that medical bill number by a certain number and say, this is the number we're going to give you. I don't believe in that. I believe that if somebody is reckless or negligent towards you, or a corporation is, you should be entitled to the amount that you've been injured. And that typically includes medical bills and lost wages for sure. But I always talk to juries about that is not what the case is about. It's about loss of a normal life. It's about the pain and suffering that's on an hourly, daily basis. And that's what we're out to recover for you, those numbers. Now, typically in the real world, there's limits to what you can recover because of the insurance coverage that the defendant has. So that's what we need to find out. And that's why you need a lawyer. You need to figure out how much insurance coverage that defendant has. Here's some other ways for you to hedge your bets in that situation as well. It's important that you procure uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. What is that? Well, all of us have tons of insurance. Homeowners insurance, health insurance, auto insurance, disability insurance, all those things. But when it comes to automobile insurance, you can buy what they call uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. What it does is it protects you in case somebody is driving around with no insurance, which happens a lot in my world, or somebody that has only $25,000 worth of liability coverage. So you're basically driving around and being exposed to that type of defendant. What can you do? Well, if you keep liability coverage for yourself of $1 million, you can ask your insurance agent for you to have $1 million of uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. Typically, that premium is very low compared to your liability insurance premium. So ask them for it, check the box, pay the number. That way you have the peace of mind of knowing that if you got hit by a reckless driver who has $0 or $25,000, which is the minimum in the state of Illinois, then you have $1 million of coverage available for you if you have those types of damages.